People have been screaming at me to cover Immortal Legend Batman, and rightfully so, man. After reading this story is amazing. It might be the best Batman comic after Absolute Batman. Like, it's phenomenal. Okay, so here's the thing. This initially opens up on a world called Avoca. I know, crazy start, right? There's this pilot who just like crash lands down into this shuttle. And as soon as he gets out, there's like kind of a state of panic, right? Not like this, right? Like not today, not like this. This is not how he's supposed to go out. And as he keeps on running, he keeps looking back, keeps telling this guy, stay away. And you get these little silhouettes of what looks like Batman. And while he's firing lasers back at this guy, he ends up causing a cave-in. Right? And that's where he's like, okay, cool, right? I did it. I can't believe it. I'm gonna be okay. Only for Batman in one of the coolest mech suits, basically, to come smashing through this cave-in and seize this guy by the neck. And this guy says, like, what do you want with me, right? Like, you hunt monsters. I thought you were a monster hunter. And that's where Batman just says, I am hunting monsters. You smuggled a man onto this planet 2 months ago. Where did you take him? Which outpost? And where this guy initially is just playing dumb, right? Like, I don't know what you're talking about, or I just do cargo deliveries. The response of Batman, you're lying. Tell me where he is. Tell me, where is Bruce Wayne? I told you guys, man, it's a crazy start, right? But it's so amazing. Okay, so at that point, you switch over to what's basically like a mining town, essentially. And you've got Mayor Dent and Sheriff Wayne, right? Sheriff Bruce Wayne, right? It's like, thank you both for coming, right? My name is Ada. And they basically acknowledge the fact that her name is Ada V, manager of Dayton Kane mining site, Avo 12. We met at a fundraiser last year. Here's a crazy thing about Ada V. The only two people that I can think of, and really the only person I know of named Ada, is a character from like the old Swamp Thing comics. So I think this is really just one of these instances where they just kind of borrowed a name to a degree and just slapped it onto a character, which is fine. But that's kind of the funny thing, is because at that point where she just kind of acknowledges the fact that, you know, Mayor Dent has a pretty good memory, the response to Mayor Dent, I can't help my constituents if I cannot remember who they are, right? And that's where she says, well, I mean, in this instance, we could really use a lot of help because there's this guy who's been torn in half, just laying down there. Like, quite literally ripped in half down the middle. And that's where Bruce says, right, have you had a chance to check your security feeds? And she's like, yeah, and we doubled the number of cameras that we had installed, just like you suggested, Sheriff, but all the security feeds were wiped. Motion sensors were disabled too. Whoever did this knew what they were doing. But that does not make any sense either. No person is strong enough to rip a human being apart like this. And that's where Mayor Dent just says, like, 3 and 8 weeks, right? Folks are panicking and we've got nothing but another corpse. We're no closer to understanding what's going on, let alone putting a stop to it. I could see about hiring some corpo security from the Corps, but I have no idea where we find the funds for that. And so that's where Bruce kind of puts his mind to task, right? Killings like this, terror and panic are the goal, Harvey. Do not give in to it, right? We'll find the person responsible, I promise. We just have to stay strong. And he says, there's not much more we can do here until morning. So let's just like head back to the town and make sure everybody else is safe and accounted for. And so once they head back to what's basically Outpost Delta, right, also known as Davistown, we start to get like some small little clues on what seems to be happening here, specifically the characters and like where we are and why things look the way they do. Because Mayor Dent just asked the question, I don't suppose there's anyone from your days on Gotham who might be able to help us. But notice that, on Gotham, not in Gotham. And he just kind of asked, like, are you okay, Bruce? Because Bruce is just kind of, you know, staring off into the distance. And he's like, you know, I thought I saw something, too many late nights, I suppose. But like, this guy attacks Bruce Wayne out of nowhere. And initially Harvey Dent turns around with this laser gun and Batman's standing there. And here's a crazy thing, right? The response of Dent, you're the Batman, but we have not had any shadow sightings. I would have seen the reports. Why is an Immortal Legend here? So again, an Immortal Legend, or a Immortal Legend, not the Immortal Legend. So seemingly, there's more than one Batman, or at least Batman is part of a larger group referred to as the Immortal Legends. Kyle Higgins, man, the wording is everything. And that's where Batman just points at Bruce and just says, this man is a shadow, and he's coming with me. And initially, they're just kind of like, what are you talking about, right? Like, Dent's like, no, right? That's absurd. Shadows don't talk. They can barely think. They cannot impersonate anything, much less a person. And that's where Batman responds, right? Absurd, like a famous trillionaire deciding to permanently relocate to a Blackwater outpost on a Class 5 world, a place where nobody would come looking if things seemed a little strange. And Bruce actually responds to that, right? He's like, look, I understand the skepticism, but as I told Harvey when I arrived, I was sick of living to fill gossip columns and board seats. I needed to go somewhere simpler, streamline my life, and it worked. Right? I'm a better man on Avoca than I ever was on Gotham. And even Dent comes to his aid, and it's like, look, I mean, this guy's fought off pirates and beasts damn near every day since he arrived. He's more than proved himself. If he was a shadow, he would have killed us by now. Now, we don't necessarily know exactly what shadows are, but clearly they're villainous and filled with nefarious intent. But that's where Batman's just like, there have been killings since he arrived. Brutal, violent, that cannot be a coincidence. And that's where Bruce kind of looks at that and is like, the killings, right? Smarter than a beast, stronger than man. It was you. And now you're after me. And so literally the guy just like flees, right? He's just like, no, that's not gonna happen. And just kind of like blames Batman, right? Like the guy's gone mad, right? He's crazy. He's been hiding here the whole time, killing. It all makes perfect sense. Batman is killing people and now he wants to kill me. And the response of Batman is like, enough, right? And he goes to basically subdue Bruce. And that's where Bruce is like, I told you, he lost his mind. So he takes off running and Batman is immediately after him. You have Mayor Dent who's trying to fire shots at him as best he can. But then like a truck comes out of nowhere and smashes into Batman, only to find out that it's Ada. She basically rescues Harvey Dent and Bruce. And she's like, I don't really have a plan here, right? And the response of Bruce, who cares? Just keep driving. Lose him first and then we'll figure out what comes next. And where Harvey's just kind of like, damn, like an immortal legend, corrupted. How in the world do we fight that, right? The response of Bruce, like one step at a time, Harvey, at least we found our killer. But Batman is hot on their trail and finally catches up to him. And they do kind of try to fire off a few shots here and there to try to take him out, but of course he takes out the wheels of the truck, sends the whole thing crashing down into this ditch, and everybody's just kind of stuck there, right? And they're like, okay, cool. So this is where we make our stand. And so at that moment where Batman is talking to Bruce and Harvey, you have Ada who pops up, right? And she's like, I've only heard stories about you, Batman, but this laser is for punching tunnels through crystals, and I'm pretty sure it'll melt you just as well as it does everything else, because she's standing there behind what's probably the biggest cannon that I think I've ever seen, all targeted on him. And he says, if you fire that here, we all die. And Bruce kind of responds and he says, if you've given in to the darkness, then you won't mind if we all die anyway. But otherwise, if this is just some big mistake, then walk away. And the response of Batman here, right? If I leave now, you'll just keep killing and you won't be able to help it. You're nothing but the unstable, festering void where a soul should be, compulsively lashing out to the world, tearing away at all the peace and meaning and contentment that you can never sustain for yourself. And that's where Bruce is just like, oh, please, right? And then he walks up to him and then he says, yes, I killed those people. Yes, I absolutely loved it. Yes, I relish earning the trust of those idiots before I snuff them out one by one. But get off your high horse. We both know you're no different. You love having your polite face, the one people can look up to, so your other face can satisfy your desperate yearning to mete out violence without consequence. Bruce is a bad guy. He's a shadow, right? Batman was right the entire time. And Batman's just like, you're right, right? He says, that is a shadow and he's not Bruce Wayne and I can prove it. And he takes his whole suit off and he's like, because I'm the real Bruce Wayne. And that's where they're just like, I mean, you can't be Bruce Wayne, right? Like Batman is immortal. And that's where the false Bruce is forced to drop the guys. And he's like, I didn't really think you had it in you, but I guess it had to end sometime, but this has all been fun. So then he just like allows his true form to appear and he's the two-faced man. It's a twist on Two-Face in DC Comics. I love this whole idea because at that point, Batman goes on the attack. And that's where Two-Face is just like, show these rubes the face they want to see. Become the Knight. And Batman's pretty brutal here, right? Like he literally just starts tearing this guy apart limb from limb. And at that point, you have Harvey Dent who's kind of cracking these jokes, right? That'll leave a mark, but you didn't get my good side. And that's the only thing that matters. He's like firing off lasers out of his eyes. It's a amazing, dude. It's like something out of Solo Leveling, right? It's absolutely phenomenal. And so Batman takes him out by just like shouting out this move called Bat Press, which is kind of amazing, and just like obliterates this guy. And then at that point, because of the explosion, Ada just kind of starts like sinking down into this huge pit that's full of lava, along with Dent. Now, of course, Batman rescues the two of them, and they're very apologetic, right, for everything that had happened, right? They're like, look, like right under our noses. Like, I can't believe that guy tricked us. But the response of Bruce, don't apologize. It's not your fault. It's mine, and I'm gonna fix it. And he just takes off. Now, here's the question. What is going on here? What is this? It's amazing, but what is it? Well, fortunately for us, Kyle Higgins never disappoints. Everything this man touches is gold. So he gives us the backstory. And here's the cool thing, right? He says, our history begins with the history you're taught in schools. At the start of the 22nd century, humanity took to the stars. But to conquer the vast distances between solar systems, we had to unlock the power of dark matter, allowing us to bend space-time around our ships. This forever changed the destiny of our species. It connected us to distant worlds, new resources, new opportunities. But unlocking this potential came at a terrible cost. The first time we used dark matter, we permanently shattered the barrier between our universe and our universe's shadow. Through this breach came humanity's shadow, mindless, soulless apparitions that craved nothing but violence and destruction. In those early days of expansion across the galaxy, we had no way of fighting the shadows until 3 powerful warriors emerged, seemingly from nowhere. Some thought them aliens, some thought them gods, but whoever they were able to fight back the shadows. But this is where the truth diverges from history. They were not aliens or gods. They weren't even immortal, as is so widely assumed. They were just 3 exceptionally talented people. 3 people who discovered a way to access and channel the energy that binds our universe and the shadow universe together. This is one of the coolest parts too. I love the way that this is done. The first embraced the ennobling, spirit-lifting, bright half of the binding energy closest to our universe. He named this approach the Way of the Robin. The second believed the tactics and abilities of the enemy could be used against them. He embraced the terrifying, relentless half of the binding energy closest to the shadow universe. He named his way the Way of the Bat. The third was a pragmatic sort. She thought it would be best to utilize both approaches, pulling from each end as necessary, soaring into the light in some moments, and utilizing the terror of the dark in others. She named this approach the Way of the Nightwing, and that just sounds incredible, right? And this says, together, they pulled humanity back from the brink of destruction. But as it became clear we would never be free of the shadows entirely, the 3 made a plan to ensure their legacy would always continue. They wanted the people of the universe to feel safe exploring the stars. So they let the rumor that they were immortal become received wisdom. In truth, however, they simply chose successors to train in the ways and eventually adopt their mantles, a tradition that is continued through the generations to this day. 1 year ago, for example, Master Stephanie Brown, which is so awesome to see that she's a part of this, passed the mantle of Immortal Legend Robin to the boy genius, Tim Drake. 2 years prior, Master Harper Rowe passed the mantle of Immortal Legend Nightwing onto stunt pilot Dick Grayson. And 2 years before that, I passed the mantle of Immortal Legend Batman onto trillionaire Bruce Wayne. He wasn't my first choice. Bruce was born into extreme wealth and privilege. He knew nothing of pain and suffering until a shadow attack that I was unable to prevent led to him losing both his parents. After this, he had the wrath and drive required of a good candidate, but I was convinced that despite this, his background meant he would be too soft to take on the responsibility. But he was determined to prove me wrong. He traveled the galaxy, honing his body and mind in extremities even I could scarcely endure. So basically Batman Year One, right, in this modified story. And it says, eventually, I relented, and for several years, he did indeed serve humanity well alongside his fellow immortal legends. But recently, Bruce has abandoned his duties, leaving his partners to face shadow incursions alone. I don't know why or to what end, but I've heard concerning reports of the Immortal Legend Batman attacking people. The most credible of these reports suggests he crashed a space station into one of the moons of Angkor, brutally killing a cryogenicist in the process. This cannot be allowed to go on. The Immortal Legend Batman must continue, but it's clear now that Bruce cannot bear that responsibility. This is why I've brought you here, to fix my mistake. I should have chosen you first, my son, but I feared that asking you to carry both the family legacy and the mantle of Immortal Legend Batman would be too much to ask. And this guy responds and says, "It's not, father. I'm ready. Just tell me what I need to do." And this guy says there can only ever be one Immortal Legend Batman at a time. But before you can take the mantle for yourself, you, Thomas Elliot, must take it from Bruce Wayne. Basically, it's Hush. But here's a question I have for you guys, right? Is it really Thomas Elliot's dad? Because he doesn't really seem like the kind of guy that you would peg to put in this position. So if it's not Thomas Elliot's dad from the main DC universe, here's the question that I would ask you guys. Who is it? Because a part of me wants to believe it's one of two people. It's either Alfred Pennyworth or Ra's al Ghul. I don't know who else it would be, right? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I really want to know, right? Because this is only the first issue. The second one I think comes out in a few weeks, right? It's not out yet. But dude, this story is incredible. Holy cow. It's one of the best Batman stories I think I've ever read. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all later. Peace.